Hey everybody! Welcome to week 3 of eSchool and week 3 of Literacy Block. We are on module 7 today, and I'm going to take the next really about 10 minutes to walk you through some key feedback to help you with module 7 and just to give you some updates on what to expect this week. So, just a really quick overview of where we're at today. You are watching Intro to Week 3 video. Thank you so much. You are going to, after that, take a minute to answer the poll in the chat. You might need to scroll up to find that. And then you are going to hop on over and get started on Module 7 on Google Classroom. All right. So our poll for today, and again, this is in the Teams chat. You might have to scroll up because I can only post it one time. But our poll question is, if you were Emily in our story that we just read, Trial by Combat, what would you have done? You're going to have some options here. Would you have confronted Mrs. Allen for stealing your things? Would you have let it slide because she's a nice old woman? Or would you have taken revenge? And there's also the option to choose some other thing if you'd like to do that. Okay. So please answer that. All right. So some weekly updates. This week, it is very important that you're watching the intro videos. Every single day, actually, it's really important that you're watching the intro videos. Honestly, last week, we had some serious issues because people were skipping these intro videos. These videos are the place where I am giving you feedback on what happened last class, and I'm addressing like really important things that you need to know as you move into the modules ahead. So last week we had honestly some pretty serious like mistakes happening from people who weren't watching the videos, specifically around IR. So in order to make sure you're watching the videos and to just like help you build that habit, I'm going to start putting them into the modules. So you're going to see when you open up today's module, maybe that's how you found this video. You'll see this box that says start here with the link to the intro video for that day, as well as check for understanding questions. So there's going to be some questions that'll help me see if you watch the video and help you pull out key information. Okay, so second update is about IR. Y'all, we had problems with IR this week. So IR, we changed the method of IR last week. So now IR is all happening in one document, and it's called like this week 3 IR homework. So you're going to find that, and you are going to fill that out throughout the week. So the IR needs to happen throughout the week. The expectation is you're reading 30 minutes outside of each module. So that's 4 30-minute chunks. It's not really okay for that all to happen on Friday morning before that noon deadline. So it is okay, however, if you pace yourself throughout the week. So I know some people have said, well, what if I read for an hour on Monday? Can I count that as 2 30-minute blocks? And the answer is, yeah, you definitely can. If you read over the weekend, you could count that as one of your 30-minute IR blocks. It's just, the goal is just that you're reading 4 30-minute chunks throughout the week. And you're kind of pacing yourself and you're writing a summary for each of those 30-minute blocks. So this week, to help kind of build this habit of pacing yourself, I'm going to be checking for the IR documents on Wednesday. On Wednesday, if you do not have 2 sections filled out, so 2 30-minute sections, 2 summaries written, I'm going to sign you up for MT, and during MT on Friday, I'm going to provide some additional support on how to like make IR work for you. Because I think last week there were just like too many people that were not getting this done and doing it last minute. Reach out to me if you have a question or if you have a specific case where you're like, I need to talk to Ms. Stark because this is how I'm doing IR and it's working for me. Okay, cool. Let me know. But I'll check Wednesday and I'll follow up with people who have not gotten started and those who will have MT. All right, so we are going to shift into some feedback. So on Thursday, you all wrote an extended response about Trial by Combat, where you're answering this question of why did Emily not confront Mrs. Allen? So today in Module 7, you are going to be revising those written responses and resubmitting them to be stronger than they were. So the module is going to walk you through a few things to focus on as you revise. But I also wanted to just give some additional feedback. I'm going to talk through 3 things that I noticed are the homeroom 1 and homeroom 2 struggling with for the most part. We're going to look at some examples of people who are like crushing these things, and then some examples of people who need to work on it. And these are 3 things that you need to work on as well as you're revising today. So 3 lessons. Lesson 1, make sure that when you are giving your background information that you're introducing the story. So I saw a lot of examples like this first and second one. A girl named Emily has her stuff stolen, and she knows who did it. That's a pretty concise summary of what happens in the story. Example 2. Emily lives in an old apartment and notices trivial small things continue to go missing from her home. Again, that's a pretty good summary of kind of what the story is about. I also love the word choice here, trivial, amazing. Let's look at example 3. In the story A Trial by Combat, a young New York woman by the name of Emily goes through the uncomfortable experience of dealing with Mrs. Allen, an older woman taking things from her room. So this one also introduces the characters, Mrs. Allen and Emily, but it introduces the story in quotation marks, which is how we signal that it's a short story. We put it in quotation marks. Okay, so you have done this before, but I think when it's maybe because it's not an essay, it's just one paragraph, we kind of forgot that we still need to introduce the name of the story in the paragraph. So I'm going to look for that. And when I'm grading the revisions. A note about that, y'all, so grades. I graded the first draft of these written responses on Thursday, and I graded it for completion. So if you completed it and you put forth full effort, like it wasn't just clear that it was pretty rushed, then you got 100%. For today's grade for module 7, it's a revision. So I'm going to grade it again. It'll be another formative grade, but this time it's going to be about completion, it's going to be about is it your best piece of writing, and did you make changes? Okay, so this time, you need to show me that you took the feedback, you made strong revisions, this is a better piece of writing. That's how I'm going to grade it. Okay. So lesson 2, this one, I gotta say, I'm a little annoyed, honestly, because I saw just a lot of silly mistakes. So lesson 2, fix the easy stuff. Capitalize names and fix spelling errors, especially when your typing is on Google Docs and it's telling you there's a spelling error, like a squiggly line underneath it. Fix it. It's seriously, you can do this, y'all. So, names were a huge thing. We always capitalize names, first names, last names, and then we capitalize like Mr. and Mrs. So I just saw lots of this where it's like Emily's capitalized here, but not capitalized over here. And then we have random words capitalized. So this sentence is actually really strong. Emily doesn't confront Mrs. Allen about this because Emily feels like her and Mrs. Allen have a connection through their common qualities. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. So just fix the spelling stuff, the capitalization stuff. Same down here, make sure that we're capitalizing the first word of every sentence. We're capitalizing names. I mean, this is stuff you all know. So I think when I read through this, I was like, okay, we need to kind of take it back a few steps and remember that when we're turning in written responses, they need to be highest quality that we can. And the good thing is we get a lot of help from the computer to fix these things. So just make sure you're proofreading, you're doing all of that as you're revising today. Okay, got this. All right, so the last thing is more of kind of I think a lesson about really digging into the way that we're explaining things. So really dig into how shared identity changes Emily's mind. A lot of people talked about how Mrs. Allen and Emily have shared identity. But I think that just saying they have a shared identity doesn't really explain, well, so what? Why does that, what's the effect of that? Why does that matter? So I want to look at this example because it's just a really, really solid one. I think it does a good job of kind of showing us how to give evidence explain the evidence, and then kind of zoom out like, okay, why does this all matter? When Emily goes into Mrs. Allen's room to confront her and realizes how similar it is to hers, she is immediately drawn in by Mrs. Allen's flowers and says that her flowers wilt too quickly. Mrs. Allen responds by saying, "But why do you put an aspirin in the water with your flowers? They'll last much longer." So we have great context, and then we have a great quote. We don't really know like what is going on with this quote. Why does it matter? Essentially, Emily's perspective of Mrs. Allen is shifting from an evil thief to a kind old lady because she is realizing that Mrs. Allen only stole her possessions because she was lonely, and even though she did steal, she is still kind to Emily, giving her advice about flowers and keeping her company. Essentially, Emily does not confront Mrs. Allen because when she tries to, she only realizes that they are very similar and that Mrs. Allen is lonely, but kind at heart, and that she is only a kind old woman who needs company. Boom. Like, so strong, because we have this kind of interesting quote that's explained, and it talks about the shift in her perspective, and then it says, like, kind of zooming out, okay, so again, restating that claim, the reason she doesn't confront Mrs. Allen is because of this realization of their shared identity and her realization that Mrs. Allen is lonely. Super strong. I would say let's try to avoid using the same transition 2 times, but it is a good transition, so use it 1 time. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm going to try to wrap this up. I know this video is long for today, but there's a lot of kind of crucial info. Pro tip, if you are finished early today or any day and want one-on-one feedback to help you grow and honestly to boost your grade, send me a chat anytime during Literacy Block, and we can have a one-on-one writing conference where we can really dig into your specific module. And then just a recap of our agenda for today. Really the only thing I want to point out is that you are going to, after you do now, you are going to copy and paste the written response that you did in Module 6 into the Module 7 document. If you have issues with that, reach out to me and I will help you. But you're going to copy and paste your written response from Module 6 into Module 7, and then you're going to be revising that and kind of moving between direct instruction that's going to tell you what to fix, and then scrolling back up and fixing it in the text. So you're going to scroll down to direct instruction, take some notes, scroll back up, make some revisions, and repeat that process a few times. And then you have a mastery check in Edulastic. All right, I'm going to end this here. Reach out if you have any questions. Good luck today. Y'all are awesome.